What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, guys, let's keep it up with these comments. I want to get closer than 5 days, and then, yeah, thank you again to everybody who's been leaving comments. I say we just jump in. All right, so why not 1234 says, I think if they made beta starter cards and untamed starter cards available for below silver rank, what do you mean by that? Both up to 500 and untamed up to 1,000, along with Team Battle Helper that shows new and bad players, teams that are successful, and the cards they should go to work. Go for that work for them? Sorry, okay, I'm struggling to understand here. You want to give beta and untamed starter cards for anybody below silver rank? I don't know. I just don't like the idea of starter cards in general. I mean, I think it makes sense in modern format, but Wild definitely not. And it seems like Wild is going to become potentially like this premium league where you can be a part of if you if you pay the toll, which is going to be the season permit thing. Okay. So interesting, but I think I would disagree with that. Mondroid says, well, I'm in the spotlight again. Yeah, ultimately it's a match liquidity problem. In hindsight, it's 2020, but maybe we shouldn't have changed ranked until the game was ready to market, because in the meantime, it feels like no one is happy, and then we're just sitting here in a holding pattern where every problem for the new system is, well, we just need more players, but we can't get new players for many more months. Well, you know what? The thing is, they have to go through these things, and I would say that the feedback being provided, as salty as it is, I'm sure is having a productive impact. And this is not to encourage more salty feedback, but if there's such a vitriolic response, right, to something that is put out, I'm sure the team is taking a closer look at everything. And just because, I mean, here's the thing. How quickly have we gotten changes to the reward system, changes to the rewards in the reward shop, right? Like all the changes to the way that, things were being managed. Now we're getting another look at botting. I would say that the team is doing actually a really good job of listening. And so, unfortunately for them, they have to sift through a lot of the salt, but it's like that saying of, in every insult or in every insult or every joke, whatever, there's like a little bit of truth, right? There's like a grain of truth. And so clearly people are unhappy, and they're unhappy about certain things, and maybe their unhappiness is justified. Maybe they're being a little short-sighted, maybe they're being whatever, right? But at the end of the day, it's coming from a real place. And that's where it gets onto the team to be able to go and tweak. And so, yes, it sucks to be here in this holding pattern, sitting here in this holding pattern. But I would say that despite everything that has happened, it's actually been a quite eventful couple of months in Splinterlands, or at least since the beginning of the year, with all the changes that the team has put in. I would say the only saltiness is the fact that SPS just continues to hit new all-time lows. And, if we're thinking that new players are going to come in and solve that problem for us by itself, then I would say that is probably doing a little too much sitting on our hands. I would like to see the DAO get more involved with that. And, to a certain extent, the DAO is in terms of cutting out liquidity rewards or liquidity pool rewards. But I'd like to see us doing more things. I mean, there was talk about, SPS or, getting DEC in the DAO to go and do things like buy up cards in the marketplace. And it's like, I would rather see the DEC buy up SPS, right? If SPS is below a certain mark, or we just start, buying a certain amount of SPS per day with that DEC, yes, it gets recirculated. But guess what? SPS gets locked up forever until we decide to do something with it. And I would say that that's the most important thing that we should be doing right now. But that's just my opinion. I'll put out a separate video on that probably later on this week. All right, so International Travel Channel says, another one. Thank you so much. Appreciate your comment. All right, so Stever, what's up, Stever? Says, I admit I agree it's harder to win now. It makes sense to me that if we have 10 guys who are playing 3 to 5 accounts all day, I can't beat those guys often to rank up. I'm not saying it's wrong, just saying it does suck. This is about the top scholars becoming a problem. But again, that's just, it's a match liquidity, and it's a player problem. All right, so Vilson talks, nice bait, thank you. Trat says, haha, this is hilarious. People have no right to complain if they suck at the game. This community is becoming a joke. Bunch of casual players complaining because they suck at the game and own a lot of cards. This is why it's called ranked. You can't expect to fight noobs and champ, bunch of idiots. Well, that's a little aggressive, but I think I agree with the general sentiment of where you're coming from. You do want to have ranked be the top players in the game, right? Unfortunately, we don't have an esports scene, so ranked is the best place to do it. And part of the frustration for the longest time was the fact that ranked was just dominated by battle helpers, right? So AI. And so to see, you know what, I would say that this is actually an absolute win. I'm going to spin this in a completely different way, where people are talking about scholars becoming a problem. I would say if you have scholars that are literally at the top of the game, Mondroid, Ultims, whoever else is up there with them, that goes to show that battle helpers are no longer dominating the top of the leaderboard. And yes, is it frustrating for you? Is it frustrating for everybody that's trying to, rank up there? Absolutely. But at least you should be able to take a little bit of silver lining in the fact that, we've somewhat solved, or at least for the moment have reduced the problem of battle helpers. Again, I don't know Ultims well. I don't even know Mondroid personally, right? Mondroid just comments on here regularly. And I heard him speak on the People's Guild podcast, but I sense Mondroid's passion, and I can assume Ultim's passion as well, that if they were ever caught with any kind of battle helper or, something like that would be pretty bad for the brands that they're trying to build as, top players in the game. So I'm going to assume the best from either of them and take that as a net positive and a net win for the game. All right, so Erks says, I managed to scrounge up enough glint for 10 ultimate chests, and then the cost went up. Have they already changed the batch size, or is my count just glitching? No, I think they changed it pretty quickly because that got abused very fast. All right, Blockchain Project says, anyone leaving now was overinvested in the project to start with. Next cycle, they will learn to spread their bets, and it won't be as much of an issue. Yeah, hopefully. People are going to be people, though, and greed is always going to come through. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm not trying to take shots. I've definitely had, greed make poor decisions for me in the past too. Should have sold there. But it is what it is, man. All right, Andrew says, LOL scholars are a problem because of the old guys, sub-bar players that have way too much time on their Discord, but no time to play. It boosts their ego because their accounts are on leaderboard, even when it's played by scholars. That would now have even more SPS to dump after the Glint Rewards updates. If the scholars reinvest some of their earnings, what else can they extract to sustain themselves? It's always down to SPS as the most valuable asset to sell. The lower the price of SPS, the more these scholars need to sell, a downward vicious cycle when players are leaving. It's a bigger problem than DEC now after lower league leaderboards were removed. It's also back to SPL losing players. Just check last season, 37-20 rating gets you into the top 100. SPL is down to less than 100 players in champ. That's fascinating. Okay. Wild is a bigger joke where you can easily bot into champ with a silver deck. Yeah, true. I agree with a lot of what you're saying here. It's an interesting, especially about SPS. Your analysis here about the vicious downward cycle for SPS is fascinating, though, because it sounds like you're saying that, at the end of the day, scholars are extractors to a certain extent as well. And I would say that, well, you know what? I guess there's always going to be sell pressure on SPS. And yes, sure, our scholars, even if scholars like reinvest that back into the game, they can't convert that SPS unless they buy credits or something with it. They can't convert that SPS into something that they can use to buy more assets within the game. They would have to sell it for DEC or burn it for DEC, take that 2.5% hit. So I think it's always going to be that case. Now, I still think that scholars can be a huge positive to the ecosystem overall. I understand what you're saying, but I think that the goodness of it can overcome the badness. The positive can overcome the negative. But we are not, to your point, we're not in a position now where that is actually the case. We don't have hundreds or thousands of people coming in trying to scholar for this game at the moment. All right, so Kulfi says most of them do the same as bots, extract value permanently. All right, talking about the scholars there. That's why the argument against bots is dumb. Okay, fascinating. Ooh, a lot of hate against the scholars. I don't know if you classify it as hate, but Coldass says, so are you guys trying to suggest that it is a problem, again, to be good at the game? I don't get the issue here. With every move these days, there seems to be people that are not happy. We can't just be content with what we have. If he's the only one winning at 5,400 and some are not winning, it means he's a champ, which is the goal of the game. Yeah, again, I would probably take a similar attitude to you in that sense, because it's just we don't have enough players in the game. And I would love to see more players come in and be more competitive. To me, I guess it shows that there's like a very clear hierarchy of like who is good at this game and who is like who's S tier and who's A tier, and with a wider net of people, you'll get more in that S tier that'll be able to compete and stay up there, right, in the 5,400 range. But we'll see. All right, International, thank you so much again for the comment. Ihor says, I've put caution to the wind, and just keep buying all these cards I always wanted. Bought a Crawless, never thought I would own one. I bought more land. I was complaining because I care. I really thought about selling and said, F that. I'm no quitter, but I would like to see them launch these projects. Let's be honest, we have 6 months tops. I will not want to earn pennies in the middle of a bull run. All right. Well, hey, iHorse, this is a pretty big turnaround for you, and I'm glad that you are finding confidence back in the project. That is exciting. International Travel Channel, thank you again. CPT says, play us a clip of your track one day. Oh, I mean, for sure. I'll let you know when it's out. Hoping for a release next month, but I actually still need to finish a lot of the recording of it this weekend. All right. So Shopboy says, top scholars are not a problem. There's no difference if the account ABC is being played by the owner or someone else. What is the problem is when one person is playing more than one account with all the cards available and maxed, and then they place those accounts in the leaderboards. Not only do they take multiple spots and prizes, it's also several top accounts that never play each other. That is a concern. That I would say that is probably something that should be looked at. Not saying that it needs to be addressed, but should definitely just be looked at. There's no easy solution because if they played each other, it could be win trading. Imagine professional sports where the top 4 teams didn't play each other. Wouldn't that be interesting? Or would that be interesting? Wouldn't it be frustrating? Yeah, okay. So that's a great point, and I think that it should be looked at. I really think end of season and like leaderboard spots, for example, I would love to have like an end of season tournament. That would be like the ideal. It's just like, okay, it's just seeding for this leaderboard. And then, the problem is that you could still get potential win trading, because if like somebody who scholars 2 different accounts are forced to face each other, it's like, well, what do they do, right? But part of that is you could, especially if you have it as a tournament that is, I guess, unfortunately, and see, this is where it gets tough, because it's like, if it's not live, then you could do it where people just submit teams blindly, and that's exactly what you want, right? Although people will be able to say like, wait a second, I recognize this rule set, same mana, same elements and all that, but I don't know. There's no perfect solution to this, at least not at this moment in time. Okay. Pomp says, I don't think it'll work. Rent card to put on land. Rental prices change. Owner of card cancels contract. Rent another card to put on land. Rinse repeat. Too much hassle. Maybe. Well, you could look at it as like a season rental, right? So they cannot cancel within like the course of a season, and that gets you right roughly like 2 weeks or whatever. But again, that would have to be very specific, and we don't, despite all the hoopla about season rentals, I don't see many cards available for season rentals. At least not the cards that I want to rent. All right. So Pomp says currently you have to stake DEC on land, but cards also have a burn value in DEC. That burn value could use by staking cards to meet the DEC requirement. Granted, that more DEC would be unstaked, but more cards would get locked up. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but you know what? It is what it is. DEC is already there. We need to find another way to use the cards. All right, so Christopher says, a tutorial and one-click rentals aren't going to keep the new players. I hate to say it because I really like Matt, but I think he's lost his way. All right. He had good energy and seemed like he really wanted to right the ship. Now he's sending people out the door at the quickest rate ever and doesn't want to hear any criticism. Dude needs a vacation and to put in a new CEO. Too bad they can't afford to pay one. Well, I don't disagree that Matt probably needs a vacation. I'm sure the last couple of years have been quite stressful, if not the last couple of months. I don't know that I agree with him losing his way, though. I'd like to think, and sure, I'll get called out on this, and that's fine. I'd like to think that the vision that he has is still just incomplete, and it's getting delayed, which makes it even all the more frustrating, right? We were hoping we were a month or so away, right, midpoint of the year, in terms of having all of NPE done, and the team was going to go heavy on marketing in the second half of the year. Then in a recent town hall, he's like, yeah, it'd probably be more like Q4, and it's like, okay. Compound that with the fact that SPS is hitting new all-time lows, you have players leaving the game, and probably people similar to you that are thinking he's lost his way and therefore are selling out. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'd like to think that his vision is still incomplete, but the truth is, right, to your point and to your credit, sometimes founders don't get to complete their vision. And sometimes things fall apart before that happens. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen here, but it would also be incredibly foolish of me not to recognize, not recognize, but acknowledge the possibility of that. All right, so Kenich says, is it still worth it? And how much minimum capital to start? Again, thank you. You know what? If you're a new player, I would recommend just renting stuff early on. You could probably get away with a couple bucks a day, right? To just try the game, see how it is, see how you like it. A couple bucks a day is going to get you enough SPS and enough, high level cards that you'll actually be able to be somewhat competitive. And, maybe not at the top tier like we're talking about, but at least enough to like try out the game and see what it's like, see if you enjoy the meta. And then you can take a closer look at how much you would want to spend, because it really ranges on how competitive you want to be. I mean, if you just want the previous core set, which was somewhat overprinted, you can get that for probably less than like $1,000 right now, including all like the reward cards that come with it. Obviously, SPS is hitting new all-time lows, so if you want to load up on that, it's never been a better time. I can't talk about the future, but it's never been a better time to get SPS. And if you want to get into the new set, that's where things start to get a little bit more pricey. But also, that's what sets apart players who have complete collections versus those who are working with incomplete collections. Pimp Daddy Smoke, what a name! Question: where does my fees that I earn from the grain DEC LP go? Will it automatically go back into the pool and compound, or does it yes, it goes automatically back into the pool and compounds. It does not get added into any other balances. It is not like the SPS pools, and I made a video specifically about this. Hopefully you had a chance to catch that, but if not, there's a video talking, I think it's called like understanding how the trade hub works. So I go into quite a bit more detail there. Pomp says the next reward set should be tradable but not playable. To play a card, you need to unlock it with fill in space, basically a 0 level card. That's interesting, but that seems more like pay to play. It's like I'm going to earn all these cards and then I can't do anything with them until I pay the DEC. I don't think I like that. It's an interesting idea, but I don't think I like it. All right, so DJ, what's up? After Sun comes in pumped to get caught up in comments. First question, explain LPs. Spends 30 minutes explaining them. Kidding, well done. All right, well, hopefully it was helpful for you guys at least. I know I went way deeper in that video onto LPs than I was hoping to, but you know me. I love this stuff, so I get far into the weeds. All right, so Rainier says, very anticlimactic way to pass 50% SPS minted, but anyways, awesome milestone to pass. I agree. And I'm hoping that we can be well past 50% if we can find a way to burn the rest that is trying to get distributed. All right, so Kevin says, LP and grain in DEC, when does this pay out? And is it in DEC? It gets paid out immediately every time there's a transaction. And it gets paid out and added back into your thing. Again, I have a video that goes into more detail, and I made it specifically because I saw a lot of comments come in like this. All right, so Stephen Hall says, unrelated, but since you've been answering comments, I wanted to mention this. I bought a lower level Furious Chicken with no attack and a higher level one so that in a no melee rule set, I could use the one without an attack and then the higher one the rest of the time. But Splinterlands doesn't give me that option. It doesn't show the Furious Chicken without melee in that scenario. Just seems to be an oversight by the team. Well, you know what? I think it's actually fascinating that you took that route of buying two of them, because a lot of people have been saying like it would be cool to be able to essentially choose the level of card that you play with. I know that Bulldog was definitely talking about this a while back, where it's like, especially if you have a card that's like a speed 1, like Sandworm, for example, great for reverse speed rule sets, but as he levels up, his speed increases, which means he's not as good for reverse speed rule sets. So it'd be cool, like when you're selecting the card, you could choose what level you want to play it at. But Matt actually shut that down pretty quickly and said that like I think it'd be very difficult from a technical standpoint, and I don't know how much of like a economy value add it would be. I mean, it might be interesting for the game, but it would also complicate things a lot. And then on top of that, it's just like pick a different card. Like you just have to work with what you're given, rather than if you only want to have a level 1 or slower speed, then it is what it is. But again, it's where you're coming from is interesting, because people have definitely thought about this. I just don't think it's ever going to get implemented into the game. So I wouldn't say that it's an oversight, but it's definitely not a high priority if the team even wants to get that put in. All right, so Kevin says you need to revisit grain DECLP. The trading is pretty good in my opinion, unlike you dissed it on the first day of it coming out. Okay, so sure, I checked it a couple hours after it was out. It was only like 6,000. in terms of, or seven, was it 7,000 in terms of liquidity provided from a dollar standpoint. Obviously, it's more than that now. It's probably up 5x. I think the last I saw was like 35 or maybe 36K. So yes, it's higher than that, but it's still not doing what I was hoping that it would do. Now, that being said, for people who got involved, it's still paying out like 20 something percent, in DEC. And again, that gets added back in compounds, and it probably will continue to pay out decent. I don't know what the APR is going to be long term, but it'll probably continue to pay out decent because, I think a lot of people, especially after the prefix titles go live, will just start buying grain off the marketplace. So something to think about. But yes, to your point, I probably went in a little too hot and heavy too fast. All right, so Jason Jenkins says, normal person, let's study liquidity pools to understand. Me, let's degen and dump money. Let's see what happens. You and pretty much everybody else in crypto. Sorry Smurf says, first like. Oh, well, thank you, Sorry Smurf. All right, Firebolt says, is not bad. Is not that bad for 500 members. Oh, okay. In terms of like how much liquidity had been provided. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Again, we shouldn't diss it. Maybe my hopes were just way too high. And I mean, I'm telling you that they were way too high. I wanted to see, 6 figures, maybe multiple 6 figures in that pool. But the problem is that it's very difficult to calculate the APR, and the APR is not consistent, right? It is very much dependent on a day-to-day basis on how much is traded. So that trade volume is huge. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. We'll see what that looks like after it normalizes. But at this point, like it's not something that people are rushing into. All right, so Coldas says, LOL, the decision is simple. Do you need SPS and have a boring experience whereby you are beaten more often and get less glint? Or you need less SPS to get more glint and enjoy the game in Wild? You're just looking for enjoyment of playing the game in essence. More gates in Wild is going to cause the same problems that you guys in Modern are having. Yeah, I mean, well, I think you're agreeing with me. To a certain extent, I'm enjoying the game more in Wild because I do like winning more. Even though my win rate is still 50% there, right? 50-50. I don't know why in Modern I just get pummeled. But that's because I think Modern is just so top heavy, right? So I'm constantly facing off against max level decks, and I'm not going to be able to compete. Chris J says, Dower Rangers. That'd be cool. We should start our own TV show. Dom says, Peps McGregor says Splinterlands is a good time. Cool. I don't know who Peps McGregor is, but thank you. Vlogging says, I agree that glint is the thing now. I'm not even going to max out the Chaos Soulbound cards, but instead accumulate all the glint for the Rebellion Soulbound set. Yeah, at some point, it'll probably be smart to do that. But while it's still available, just because I think those cards are going to go for a premium, especially early on, I don't know. I just want to get them maxed out as quickly as possible. International Travel Channel, thank you for the comments here. You also said, I put in my grain earnings from one land plot every time I claim. Maybe the pool gets filled up over time. Yeah, it will. It definitely will. And as we get more trading volume whenever the other elements of land 2.0 come in, and again, that could be later this year, that could be next year, that could be 2026. I have no idea, right? Elements of it I'm hoping we get later on this year, but we'll have to wait and see. But as there becomes more and more trade volume and people need grain because they are choosing to go for other things, right? They either turn their land into a storage building or they go for, wood or stone or whatever the resources are. They'll still need grain. And so therefore they'll probably be coming back. And yeah, that'll be interesting. All right, Lawrence Blake says, well, I tried Modern for 1.5 seasons yesterday, went back to Wild only. I will take a little SPS to avoid the brutality. Yes, I'm in the same boat as you. Nicola says, whole concept of max decks through all leagues is a complete failure by itself. First, all dudes sold cards and just rented 2 to 3 max splinters if they play at all. Second, with that kind of play, they're cruising Silver League all the time, never moving up. I mean, that's not. But see, that's not. Oh, well, I guess that's interesting. So you're saying that they're winning half the time because they're playing a max level deck, and then they're losing the other half of the time because they're playing starter cards, which is fascinating because for people in silver, then it kind of gives you a 50-50 experience. Idea that they'll move up towards Diamond Champ is wrong. Also, idea that players will spend money on decks with this kind of rewards is wrong. Card level below Diamond lost its meaning completely. Yeah, it's definitely something to get used to. I wouldn't say that I'd call it a failure yet, although I would say that I'd agree that a lot of players got used to the old way and are not having it with this new way. But once again, I do wonder what it's going to be like when new players come in because they don't have a context of what it used to be like. So, they're not going to have that baggage. All right, so let's see. How much time are we looking at here? 25 minutes in. Let's go ahead and wrap this up because I'm only 2 days behind. I know there's still a ton of comments because people have been really engaged the last couple of days, which is fantastic. But guys, made it from 2 weeks to 2 days. I just want to pat myself on the back a little bit there. All right, so we'll do this. We'll do a couple more and then call it a day. So Tarantula says, I think we are in the later stages of the big reset. Most players fall into two groups, the ones that just want to leave and look for an opportunity, and the ones that plan for the very long term, 2+ years. It'd be great to have a video for these long-term people that answers what is the best APR for this period to earn DEC, SPS, etc. What is the best long-term passive SPS accumulation, licenses, land, bots and wild? What's best for long-term DEC accumulation, renting out cards, selling grain? It would be amazing if we had a benchmark. Well, that sounds like an investment video, which, again, I'm not opposed to making, but let me think about it. I'll give you a quick answer, and I'll say that if you're looking at APR specifically, I think nothing really beats licenses right now. There's a little bit of stability there, although license prices can still go down, and we've seen them go down. But at the same time, it's and what I don't like about licenses is the difficult liquidity there. Land is too difficult to determine right now because there's so many things up in the air, and it's only half implemented. Bots and wilds, I wouldn't go for, but what's the best long-term passive SPS accumulation? I would actually say probably just buying SPS near its all-time lows. If that's what you want, buying SPS, you get the 10%, or whatever, 10, 11% on SPS and vouchers that you earn, right? So you get more SPS from that. I would take the vouchers, whatever percentage that is, flip those for more SPS, and then I would rent out your SPS further for DEC and then flip that DEC back into SPS is what I would do if you were trying to do long-term, because then you maintain the most upside. Because if anything is going to bounce up in this economy, that's going to lead everything else, it's going to be SPS, right? So where that goes, right? 5 cents, 10 cents, $1, I have no idea. But I don't think this economy is going to go anywhere unless SPS goes somewhere. And I think Matt's been very clear about that too, that SPS needs to be what succeeds. So that's where I would be thinking. Again, not financial advice. All right, so Pomp says, this is why I left Modern. I keep losing. Cut the energy, drop rate by half, consume energy, and when you win. Oh, we've been through this idea before. It's interesting. I'm not opposed to it. It's just how would you handle buying energy? But I don't know, maybe you buy 2 energy for every 1 win or something like that. Would that work? Maybe. Yeah, I mean, if you want to stick with like the 50-50 principles, maybe that could be a quick solve. All right, so Pomp also says, new Soulbound set should be 0-level cards. You can trade them, but cannot play with them unless you pay the unlock fee. The opposite of now. I think people would not be a fan of that because they want to come in and just be able to play and like get these cards. And it's an interesting idea. Maybe we do that for something else or maybe a specific subset, but I think reward cards, people want to get excited about grabbing. Okay, so this is a long one. We're going to end with this one from Erroneous. You said it, the Grain LP was going to be a nothing burger, and you were wrong. All right, fighting words. Since that came out, we have been burning DEC as shown on the Splinter Cards website. All right, that's already been debunked because that just disappeared. So it's already back, and we did not burn it. And land stake keeps going up. Last I saw, we were at 1.514 billion. So yeah, we're up 14 million. It's okay. If we're gonna get excited about that, then sure. Sorry, you can already tell the stock's going to be heavy on this one because you came out with guns blazing. But I'll try to roll it back. Let me try to roll it back so we can end this video on a nice tone here. I know some of that is people selling their new jackpot reward chest items generating market fees burn, but it's not all that. I said as a comment on one of your videos that the Grain LP would be a small stimulus to our economy, and I was right. Okay, let's dig into this further. All right, since the Grain LP came out, I have removed most of my single BCX CL GoFi legendaries off of plots and bought rare GoFi Max, to replace them. Sold the grain necessary to get DEC to cover that increased staking requirement. Bought at least $60 worth of garbage reward cards and burned them for DEC to get totems. Well, we thank you for your sacrifice. DEC to land because Trasnex stops working for me. Bought 5 common totems and 4 rare totem fragments. Got myself into a position in the grain LP of 79.5K. Bought 7 more land plots. Bought 1 more land plot online with a totem. And now they're going to release active rolling leaderboard titles for research, so people will be fighting for titles on that, which is going to slowly reverse the initial grain dump as those plots require grain. All they have to do now is release anything related to land and make it even somewhat relevant to ranked, and it's going to be a stimulus to our economy. Pick your poison. Also, this LP is, as far as I know, the first LP inside of a Web3 game, making it a safe place to trade grain. The liquidity of this pool keeps growing, which means a constant reduction in slippage in every trade. Anything they release regarding land now, this is the pool. This is the thing that you'll be looking at to see what's going on. This is the low tide. This is the low point. Everything in land requires grain. All right, Matt. Well, look. I don't want to come back here and you know I love you, dude. You're one of the regular commenters here and on X. So I'm just being snarky with you to be snarky. But in all seriousness, I think it's awesome that it has inspired you to do a lot more with grain, but I would disagree wholeheartedly with your statement here that the grain LP has been a small stimulus to our economy. Maybe it's been a stimulus or like a motivation for you, but DEC is still below 800 Splintoshis, right? I would say if you wanted to show the economic impact of this, I would have wanted to see DEC do something, but we're still range bound in the 700 Splintoshi range, right? Just going up and down there. SPS also has not moved significantly, and probably that's because we're still waiting on the DEC overhang to get eaten up, right? The movement in SPS was probably because of the fact that Bitcoin went from 60 to 71K. But again, we went from like 1.1 cents to 1.2 cents. It's not anything to write home about. So I'll say this. I appreciate the fact that, it's inspired you to do a lot more within the game economy. And I would say that you probably are not the only one. I know there's a lot of people who are very excited about land. Now, here's where you and I will be on the same team, and I'll agree with you. This in conjunction, right, the grain DECLP in conjunction with what is upcoming, the research titles or the prefix titles, I think that combination can have a stronger impact, because when whales play against each other and fight against each other, everybody wins, right? So at this point, whales are not fighting yet, but that hopefully is going to get turned on before the end of the month. And if it does, then yes, I think we will see some kind of stimulus or some kind of economic impact that is recognizable, and not just us, staying in the same range bound that we've had for our 2 primary tokens. So again, maybe I'm just being optimistic. I'm agreeing with you on that, though. I think it could be interesting. The mechanisms for buying grain easy and cheap are in place now, so we'll see what happens. But I'll tell you this, I forgot that I had a 4th plot token. So it was just sitting there for the longest time. And I just turned it. Well, I didn't turn it on, but I just redeemed and surveyed it today. And I was like, oh, let me get more land going now that like grain is the thing. And I can just, it's in a different region, but I can just turn it on, throw some extra cards on there, and then see what happens. So that'll be something that I probably work towards. So, hey, to your point, it's getting even someone like me to get more land online. And to cap this off, I'm going to give you the win here. I was actually, for the first time in a very long time, on Peak Monsters, specifically looking at the market for land, just out of curiosity. I'm not going to go heavy or do anything. I wasn't even planning to buy, but I was there. It did interest me because I was like, yeah, I haven't looked at this in a while, and land is more interesting than it was or has been the last 6 months. So let's see what's up. All right, but that is all I have for you guys in this video. Hope everything is going well in your side of the world or wherever it is. Leave any more thoughts, questions. I appreciate all the comments that you guys have left so far. And I will see you around the game. Take care.